Today, we're going to think through the changes in the publication manual of the American Psychological Association as they transition from the 6th edition to the 7th edition. We're looking at headings, in-text citations, as well as citations and references, a few mechanical changes, the labels for figures and tables, working toward bias-free language, and transitioning to active voice. So in the APA 6th edition, these were the major heading levels. Now in the APA 7th edition, these are the headings. So as you can see, not huge changes here as levels 1 and 2 stay the same. Level 3 is new, which moved the headings that were levels 3 and 4 to levels 4 and 5 respectively. So on those two, the case also changed from sentence case to title case. Now please note that for our thesis students specifically, chapter headings with the Roman numeral and the chapter title will exist outside of this hierarchy. I know that sometimes causes some confusion. So moving on to citation style, here we see the in-text citation style for the APA 6th edition. If a piece had 1 or 2 authors or 6+ authors, this was pretty straightforward, but for anything in the 3 to 5 author range, it was a bit more complicated, as you see here. So the APA 7th edition made the move to simplify these in-text citations. So now anything with 3+ authors will just use et al. From the very first use, which I think will really simplify and help reduce confusion. So thinking about citations and references, in the APA 7, we'll include names for up to 20 authors before using ellipses. We'll also include website names and the web page title. So this means that if you're on, say, a specific page of the CDC site, you would attribute the page to the CDC, but then would also include the title of the specific page from which you're citing. APA 7 also has us do away with the location of the publishers, so we're doing away with city and state. We don't need to provide the platform for ebooks, such as Kindle. Write retrieved from before the URL, or write DOI : before the DOI. So feel free to look at chapters 9 and 10 for more info here. Okay, a couple of small mechanical changes to think through. For one, the APA 7 recommends 1 space after a period instead of 2. I think this shift has been happening sort of slowly and unofficially, but it's official now, so some of us will need to retrain our thumbs on the spacebar. Also, the APA 7 recommends using quotation marks instead of italics when highlighting a word. Here are a couple of examples. However, APA 7 still recommends using italics when introducing a key term or phrase, often accompanied by a definition. So I know that's a little bit gray there. So you can see 6.7 and 6.22 for more info on those issues specifically. The labeling of tables is remaining the same from the 6 to the 7, and you can see that label style here. The shift comes in with the figures. Figures will now use the same label style as tables. So as you can see, this is different from the 6. It used to be labeled underneath in that format. Now, figures and tables will still be counted separately. They'll still be listed separately in the front matter, but the style in which they are labeled will now be the same. Some of the biggest shifts in APA style are in these next few things we're going to look at. One is that the APA 7 really pushes us to move toward bias-free language. They recommend using appropriate specificity and being careful with labels. And then here are some of their specific recommendations for reducing bias. We need to be careful to avoid using terms that could be seen as derogatory, like elderly or aged, and instead provide a more specific term or a more specific age range. APA 7 also recommends using person-first language rather than disability-first language when possible, as well to avoid negative or condescending terminology. For example, you'd want to say a person with AIDS and not an AIDS victim, etc. We see a big shift in the APA 7 in moving to using they as a singular pronoun in place of he or she or he/she. The APA 7 talks a lot about some of these issues related to gender-specific language, so feel free to read more of Chapter 5 as well as 4.18 for more info on that. Another big change here is the move to first person or active voice. So in the past, we would do a lot of the researcher found or it was found, etc. So the APA 7 is doing away with that. Instead, the writer will say, I found this or that, or I conducted, etc. We will do away with referring to ourselves in the third person as the author or the researcher. However, we need to continue to avoid the editorial we. So if you say we, it should mean you, the author, plus your team of co-authors. It's a very literal we. So this means you still can't say things like we all know, etc. Also, due to the formality of these papers, we will still stay away from second person pronouns, including the understood you. The new manual is very user-friendly, much more so than past editions. It contains a lot of examples, which is really helpful as well. I hope this helps bring some familiarity and understanding of the changes from the APA 6th edition to the 7th. Thank you so much for your time.